Hello, I'm Kyle, and I'm here to review the final episode of House of the Dragon Season 1, The Black Queen. And boy, was that a great finale. They really, I think, cemented themselves as being one of the best first seasons for a television series. Now, I will start off by saying that when I watched it, I did expect a little bit more action because, once again, it is the finale, and even the trailers, in a way, kind of teased this dragon fight that does end up happening. But I was a little bit surprised that this finale, in a way, felt even smaller than last week's episode. But looking back on it, I think that they did the right thing, because the way in the books The Dance of Dragons unfolds, they needed to get to this point in the show where they end up killing Luke Valerian, Rhaenyra's son. And by killing him, I believe that is how they're basically saying this is how the Dance of the Dragons will start. And I can understand why they ended it. I just, given that it was the finale, I was kind of like wondering, well, they're going to have this epic battle, and, this epic way to end the show. For me, the real crowning achievement of this episode was the crowning of the Black Queen, Rhaenyra. And I think that that is what the show's been building up to since the first episode. And they beautifully did it with both Ramin Djawadi's score, the way that they presented the crown to her, showing all of the knights, all of her men and followers kneeling, and even Rhaenys, in that moment, her seeing that a woman was finally being respected to rule. I think that was a great moment. I was surprised at how much of Rhaenys and Corlys we did get in this episode, because I didn't even expect to see Corlys show up. And I'm so glad he did, because I feel like this episode was a nice way to end their arc for this season, where they both were in their own way trying to be ambitious. And at least in Corlys's mind, he was trying to make sure that his kids were on the throne and that his grandkids had the title. And then with Rhaenys, she didn't care about that. She just wanted to make sure her family was safe, and she knew that the game that these people in the Seven Kingdoms play is not a game that she really wants to be a part of. And yet in this final episode, she realized, once she saw Rhaenyra and how she is leading, she finally respected her. And I think that was a great moment for Rhaenys, and it was a great moment for the relationship between Rhaenyra and Rhaenys, because this entire show, they had been sprinkling their relationship, and how it first started off very antagonistic, and then it went into her really kind of not trusting her, but still respecting her. And then at the end of this season, we get to a point where she fully respects her, and she's now on her side. And it's because of Rhaenys that they are on her side, because Corlys at first did not want to join Rhaenys, and not want to join Rhaenyra. And yet Rhaenys made her husband believe this, and he realized that he was wrong. He had been too set on his own ambitions. And once again, it kind of shows the theme of this show, where the women do play their part behind the scenes in this kingdom. But at the same time, it's also a kingdom where the men are very much greedy for power, and they believe that they are all powerful. And we get to Daemon, and really this episode had a great moment between him and Rhaenyra that I believe a lot of people online have been upset with, because they don't think it is like part of Daemon's character. But clearly it is, where he does end up choking Rhaenyra, and it shows you how toxic their relationship is, because he does love his wife. It's just that he wants to be king. He wants to be the one ruling and leading, and he believes he should be because of his age and because of him being the king's brother. But Viserys made Rhaenyra the heir, and he doesn't fully realize how important that was for Viserys, and how in this one moment when she says to him, "He didn't tell you about the Song of Ice and Fire, did he?" And you see how hurt Daemon is, because he realizes that this brother that he's loved for so many years was keeping a secret from him that only Rhaenyra knew. And man, it's also a little bit different than a couple of episodes prior, because when we saw Daemon and Rhaenyra in the last episode with the king, you saw Daemon kind of more so supportive of his wife, more so supportive of his brother, and now to see the cracks unfolding, and you're starting to see Daemon, his own weaknesses as a man, and I think that is really, really interesting. And I mean, there's so many great moments in this episode, but I mean, I think the one that everyone's been talking about is the dragon chase of Vhagar with Aemond and Arrax with Luke. And for a television show, that is one of the best sequences in terms of VFX that I've seen on TV, and they should be awarded all the accolades for it, because it really felt like a Godzilla-like scene. And they are making a Godzilla TV show. I do wonder how that, will look after watching something like this, but the immenseness of Vhagar and how she was just shadowing like the clouds, and it's this rain and this pouring weather, and Luke on Eric's trying to maneuver his way through, and then you get to see how the dragons aren't listening to their masters. They're disobeying them, and they're attacking each other, and it just was so good. And then you see how Aemond actually, he did not want it to happen. He didn't want to kill Luke, and he does, and it's all his fault for being like this, and the dragons fighting each other. I think the show did an incredible job with the dragons, because they made each dragon kind of feel different from each other. I wish that we got more of the dragons, but I will only assume that we will get more of the dragons in the next seasons to come. But yeah, overall, looking at the end of the day for this finale, and the way that it ends with Rhaenyra turning just like she turned in the final episode of the show. Oh, not the final episode of the show. That she turned in the first episode, at the end of the first episode of the show. It just was so poetic and a perfect way to end the episode. Overall, House of the Dragon is one of my favorite first seasons of television I've seen. I don't know if I can rank them right now, but it's definitely my top 5 favorite first seasons of TV, and they really nailed it with this show. It is just remarkable how they not only adapted a book so perfectly. I mean, for a book like this, which is a very hard book to adapt, it's not a book like Game of Thrones was. It's a book that is very much a historical book. They make it into this great series that also enhances the source material, and it serves as a prequel to the show Game of Thrones, which in its own right is another great prequel. And then you have the time jumps, the different actors that we see in the time jumps, the way that they so seamlessly told you this story of a family, and how they made you care about these characters. It's kind of crazy to think what this show would be like if it was all dropped at once. I feel like it would have been too much if you binged it, but I'm glad they didn't do that because they ended up, you know, really letting the world feel this show and get into the hype. And it's just really sad that's over because now I cannot think of another show that will be this, you know, big. I know The Last of Us is coming out, but I don't think there's going to be a show like House of the Dragon for years to come. It was just so well made, and on every level. And I cannot wait for the second season, probably in 2024, but we will see. So yeah, House of the Dragon, best show on television. What did you guys think of it? Did you like it? Did you like the finale? Do you think that you will just be having to patiently wait for 2 more years for this show to come out? Let me know in the comments below. Take care, guys. Have a nice day. Bye.